Apple is suing OpenAI for trade secret theft, accusing the company of a coordinated campaign to steal information about upcoming products. Apple saying that
Apple sued OpenAI. So OpenAI published Apple's own text messages. 400 former Apple employees now work at OpenAI. One of them, Apple says, texted a colleague, "I found out I can still get in." So funny. The man running OpenAI's hardware spent 24 years building the iPhone. Apple claims job candidates were told to bring actual parts to their interviews. OpenAI's answer was not a legal filing. It was a blog post full of screenshots. It calls the lawsuit careless, aggressive, and oddly personal. And the one number those screenshots never explain is 37. Start with the document itself, because almost everything you have heard about this case comes from one side of it. On Friday, the 10th of July, Apple filed a 41-page complaint in federal court in Northern California. It does not accuse OpenAI of copying a model or a chip or a line of code. It accuses OpenAI of running a hiring pipeline that carried Apple's unreleased hardware out the door inside people's heads and laptops. Apple's word for it is coordinated. The scale is the part people repeat. More than 400 former Apple employees now work at OpenAI. On its own, that number proves nothing. Silicon Valley has always worked this way, and California famously refuses to enforce the agreements that would stop it. So Apple did not build its case on the 400. It built it on two. The first is Chang Liu, a senior systems electrical engineer. He left Apple on the 22nd of January. According to Apple, hours after he walked out, he texted a former colleague that he still had another computer. And then, Apple says, this. The reply Apple quotes is 2 words long: "I'm ready." That reply, Apple says, came from Yuting Peng, who went by Alyssa and who later joined OpenAI herself. She is not a defendant. The mechanism Apple describes is mundane, and that is exactly why it is damaging. An authentication bug. A colleague's work computer still logged in. No hacking, no theater, just a door nobody closed. The second name carries far more weight. Tang Yutan is OpenAI's chief hardware officer. Before that, he spent 24 years at Apple. He was vice president of product design for the iPhone and the Apple Watch. If you own either, he helped decide how it feels in your hand. Apple's complaint says Tan instructed job candidates to bring actual parts from Apple to their interviews. And the complaint does not stop at parts. It lists design files, prototypes, and coaching.
You're saying they also sort of groomed Apple employees and taught them how to steal information and take it over to OpenAI.
Every word of that is an allegation. None of it has been tested in court. Hold on to that, because it becomes the whole argument later. Now the part that explains the temperature. Apple is not defending a chatbot. It is defending a device that does not exist yet. In 2019, Jony Ive left Apple. He had shaped the look of almost everything the company sold for 2 decades. Years later, he and Sam Altman built a hardware company and filled it with senior Apple design and engineering people.
I.O. was bought last year by OpenAI for $6.5 billion.
$6.5 billion for a company with no shipped product. Smart speakers, glasses, earbuds. The categories Apple already owns. So when Apple says stolen information shaped a competitor's hardware, it is not arguing about the past. It is arguing about a product that has not launched. Which brings us to the 4th of August, the day this stopped being a normal lawsuit. That morning, Apple asked the judge to put the case on a fast track and to freeze what OpenAI can do while it runs. 30 days to hand over records, communications, and device data. Depositions within 50.
It's already casting a wider net, singling out nearly a dozen additional former Apple employees who have since joined OpenAI, including people it says
Some of them, Apple says, shared confidential information before their interviews. Some took screenshots of internal documents. And Apple told the court its investigation is still running and that whatever it finds next could widen the order again. By that same evening, OpenAI had answered, not in court, on its website. The post is titled, "Apple is getting this wrong." It calls Apple one of the greatest companies in the world and then does something companies almost never do.
It's firing back publicly. In a blog post, it calls the lawsuit careless, aggressive, and oddly personal, says Apple's account relies on false information, and argues
Underneath that language sat the actual screenshots. Emails between the two companies' lawyers. private message threads between Apple engineers. And OpenAI's argument from those threads is genuinely awkward for Apple. It says Apple's own employees went to Chang Liu after he left and asked him for help finding files. In one exchange, an Apple employee is directed to pull files from Liu's personal iCloud account. A person in that thread calls it highly irregular. OpenAI's conclusion is blunt. This is not theft. This is a company that fails to switch off access when people leave. Then it goes after the timeline. OpenAI says that back in February, Apple's outside lawyers emailed the wrong person, having confused two similar last names. It says a conversation Apple described with OpenAI's general counsel simply never happened. Then 5 months of silence. Then a lawsuit. And on Tang Tan, OpenAI does not hedge. It defends him by name and says he has always told the team they must not use another company's confidential information. The injunction, OpenAI says, is unnecessary because there is nothing to enjoin. It reads well. It reads like a company that has been wronged and finally gets to say so. And then people who read court documents for a living started reading it more slowly. The sharpest response came from John Gruber, who has covered Apple longer than most of the people in this story have had careers. His verdict was an old courtroom proverb. Take the wrong email story first. It is true, and it does not matter. The serious letter, the one that actually laid out the accusations, reached the right person, OpenAI's general counsel. It went unanswered. The 5 months of silence Apple is being blamed for start with a letter OpenAI received. Now the message threads. Look carefully at what they explain. They explain the iCloud access, the part Apple is not actually fighting about. The reason Chang Liu is named in this lawsuit is different. Apple says he downloaded 37 documents from a third-party cloud service the company used. Those 37 documents appear nowhere in the screenshots. The receipts answer a charge nobody made. There is a second detail Gruber noticed, and it is the most human thing in this whole case. OpenAI's own lawyer, Patrick Curran, had already written a private reply to Apple. Plain, specific, no adjectives. Gruber called it far stronger than the public post. The company had a good answer. It published a different one, which tells you who the blog post was written for, not the judge, us. And once a legal fight is being argued in public, it stops being only a legal fight. Within a day of the filing, Elon Musk arrived in the replies.
Intellectual property. Musk saw his opening there, chimed in with a nickname he has used before, Scam Altman. He said he might love scamming more than any
Altman did not let it sit.
human alive. That got Altman's attention. He then responded, "Homeboy, you're the one selling public market investors on short-term space data centers." These two, if you can believe it, were friends at one point. They were
Altman is not named anywhere in Apple's lawsuit. The case is about a hardware team. None of that stopped it from becoming a fight between two men who once started a company together. So, strip the noise out. What does Apple actually want from a judge?
Wants them to redesign their hardware without Apple proprietary information.
That is the real weapon, not a check. A court order that sends a $6.5 billion hardware team back to the start of the drawing. And in this industry, delay is the punishment. Every month OpenAI's device does not ship is a month Apple keeps the room to itself.
Yeah, this is going to be a multi-year thing, if you ask me.
Years. And here is the part that should bother both companies. A trade secrets trial runs on evidence, and the evidence is the design of a product OpenAI has never shown anyone. Apple sued to keep its secrets. Discovery may be the thing that finally drags OpenAI's into the open. One company published private messages to look transparent and skipped the only number that mattered. The other filed 41 pages and asked the court to slow down a rival it can no longer outdesign. Neither of them is telling you the whole thing. That is usually the tell that the case is real.